Go. All right, we should be live on Facebook, on the YouTube, and checking on the Instagrams. Actually, let me grab my backpack with my second screen real fast. And we'll be live there. Perfect. We're live on Instagram as well. Right as the screen. You watching? I'm at my uncle's office, and his daughter is watching us live somewhere. Who works here? There we go. A couple things we can talk about today. One, our common theme of wear and tear came up, Rachel, on a conversation I had with an adjuster on my drive out here today. I already talked to Aaron about it. I had to vent to somebody, and Aaron is my first venting partner. But I think there's a conversation to be had for some of these users who do everything right, meaning they file a legitimate claim, they advocate for themselves using all the right language, having professional vendors, gathering all the evidence, still have the hardest time like getting reasonable things approved, then call someone like me, a public adjuster, to come and represent them, and then they're still having a hard time. And I'm sitting here wondering, like, at what point is this worthy of a lawsuit? Like the bar is so high for a good, legitimate, strong lawsuit, which just feels ridiculous. So, I'm going to text you right now. I'll tell you the name. You'll know. But just so you know who I'm talking about.
It seems to be based on just their feelings about, roof damage. It's not even, regardless of what you present, it's how the insurance company or adjuster feels about it.
I can't imagine the conversation I had today that the guy didn't know exactly what he was saying and what he was participating in.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it a bit more specifically, Kim. Go for it. Okay. Tell the story.
I was just waiting for...
Oh, you want Cody here?
Oh, I don't know if Cody's going to show up or not. I can text him. What's weird? Okay, so on Instagram, we are showing up there. I did send Cody the link. Let's see if he's available. Anyone else we should text to hop on office hours with us? Just get someone. We need someone that has big reactions so that when we tell stories, they can be like our hype man.
Whoa.
When I talk about these bad insurance companies. Yeah, I can jump into it. It'll be easy for Cody to grasp, obviously, if he jumps in here. So, if you are watching, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook or anywhere else, these are Tugboat's live office hours. Feel free to drop a question about your policy or claim. That's what we're here to chat about. And but I'm going to start by talking through what is a common enough scenario that happens with people with claims that we see at Tugboat, that it's incredibly frustrating. So most people that use Tugboat are successful on their own with their claim, right, Rachel? Like most people don't need a public adjuster. Most people don't need an attorney. Most people encounter something frustrating, right, and are able to get through it. Right? Like, so this is like that's the most common story, the most likely story for your claim. But it is common enough that someone does those things, has a claim, a legitimate one, presents it well, advocates, hits frustration, which is really, it's at that point that it's like, okay, now I really need to know how to advocate for myself because now I've hit a wall. They said no to something. And they do a good job there, and the insurance company just keeps kind of slamming the door on them. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm here. So this user was a Tugboat user from the wildfires. They had really significant smoke damage right down the road from the fire. right? And I'll just give the quick background on the claim. They had a respected insurance company in California, and they were just going to use the insurance company's vendors. We're going to trust them. We'll have Tugboat help me advocate for things when it comes up. So, and there's a lot more to this. Like, I wasn't involved from early on, but I know that they were frustrated pretty early on in this claim. Anyway, so insurance company assigns a mitigation company to come and clean the house. The insureds hear that all their neighbors are testing for hygienist testing and coming back with lots of lead and asbestos. So they they asked the insurance company about testing. They weren't willing to test. So the homeowner just went and paid for it, got testing done, came back really high for lead. Insurance company said, we don't trust your results. We're going to have our own company go test. And they did. Voila, confirmed all the results, right? This is now common enough. Like, we've heard that same exact story now several times with these wildfires. And then they kick out the mitigation vendor and say, well, we're going to have our insurance company connected abatement vendor come in and clean everything per the protocol that our testing hygienist came up with. And standard, and Rachel, you're inundated with this stuff every day, and you've become really deeply entrenched into these hygienist reports and lead results and what are the requirements in California. So you're aware. So you stop me if I'm wrong about something here.
Okay.
If a house is contaminated with lead, first and foremost, you just assume that there's lead everywhere once results come back positive with lead inside the house, right?
Right.
In this testing, they did like 10 samples throughout the house, and they all came back positive for lead. So there was no doubt it was everywhere.
Yeah.
2, that lead needs to be cleaned by a vendor that is licensed to handle lead contaminated items.
Yep.
Both like cleaning the structure and the contents, right? And general understanding is that there are certain items that you shouldn't even try to clean once they're contaminated with lead.
Right.
And it's debated as to what the line of that is, right? Some people might say all the clothing needs to get thrown out. And then now there are some vendors saying like, no, you just wash it with hot water. All that lead's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some debate on what that line is. And so anyways, that's all pretty standard information. And this claim comes back high for lead everywhere. They assign this abatement vendor and tell them, we're only going to total loss a very limited number of items. They didn't even tell the homeowner what it was going to be. But it was some random t-shirts and a few soft goods, one blanket from the living room, but not another blanket from the same living room, like things like that. And so there was a few, like 3 trash bags worth of total lost clothing and blankets throughout the whole house. And the rest of it. So at this point, and then the abatement vendor has quote unquote cleaned everything. And so the homeowner is now concerned at that point is when they're using Tugboat to help advocate for themselves. Hey, are things being cleaned properly? What's getting approved? Our neighbor's adjuster paid for all their kids' clothing and toys to be replaced. Are you going to pay for that? This insurance company says, nah, like we're not paying for any of that. And so the homeowner is just kind of trying to follow their lead, advocate where they can, do some stuff like that. And anyways, so then the homeowner reaches out to Tugboat and says, hey, like we're overwhelmed. Something feels off. Can we talk to a public adjuster? That's where I get involved because it just so happens I actually live near this claim. I'm not doing a whole lot of public adjusting anymore. I'm leading Tugboat. I do some. So I took this one up. So I don't get to live the frustration of our public adjusters day in and day out. as much anymore. So this is fresh for me. So anyways, they're like, look, we don't want to do it anymore. It's overwhelming. They're telling us we have to move in within 5 days from now, but we're pretty sure all our stuff's still contaminated. They asked me to represent them. I agree to. And then I go to the house and I'm like, I've never seen anything treated like this. All of your contents are just sitting here while it looks like they vacuumed around them and on some of them. Like they obviously vacuumed on top of the dressers and the couches that they didn't total loss. But they couldn't have vacuumed your Christmas tree that was right here in the middle of the room. That doesn't work. And they don't vacuum the pages of children's books. That's not a thing. And then, this junk drawer that's full of old mail, like they didn't clean that. Like all this stuff presumably still has lead dust on it. And so I called the abatement company and said, hey, what happened here? Like you guys are asking for us to sign off that this place is clean and do a final walkthrough. But you didn't clean the Christmas tree. I know. Yeah, we don't clean Christmas trees. Okay. Why is it there still? Well, the adjuster told us that they weren't going to pay to total loss, those types of things in the house. And so we didn't handle them. It's like, but you didn't clean them and they're in the house still. So they have lead on them. You just vacuumed around them. Anyway. And so all this happens. I email the adjuster, reach out to them and say, hey, the abatement company didn't clean everything that's in there because they can't clean everything that's in there. And according to the hygienist report, a lot of it should be total loss. We need an extension on the housing. He gives 2 weeks. So anyways, that's the background context on this claim of the entry point that I came in. And the adjuster immediately gave a few more weeks of housing just to approve that. So the insurance and the homeowners got a little bit of breathing room there. And at the same time, the abatement company that was there cleaning said, hey, we can't clean your ducts, we were in the report says that those need to be addressed. We're not capable of doing that. So they recommended an HVAC company to come and assess the ducting. And the HVAC company recommended by essentially the insurance company from the abatement company. So the HVAC company comes and says, hey, your ducts are really old. Like our cleaning equipment is going to tear them up and it's going to damage them. So like they can't be cleaned. And beyond this, most honest HVAC companies will tell you like cleaning lead dust and this asbestos dust out of ducts, like you can't really guarantee it. So a lot of them won't even do it. But these ones are saying these ducts are so old and thin and like they can't be cleaned. So I'm like, okay, great. They wrote an estimate for replacing the ductwork. So I just sent that estimate to the adjuster. Hey, the HVAC vendor that went out there said they can't clean these ducts. Here's their estimate for replacing them. Let us know if this is approved, right? And they're going to need to get removed by the abatement company. So this is all leads up to the adjuster called me today, just a couple of hours ago. And I had sent him 2 emails yesterday. One saying, hey, I want a licensed contents vendor to come in and assess the contents. I'll use one of the ones that you guys work with because I know them and they're honest. So can this vendor be approved to come in, look at the contents and say what should happen with them based off the hygienist report, that they're contaminated with lead? Can they be cleaned? How should that go? And here's the HVAC estimate for replacing the ducts. And the adjuster called me today to tell me, first and foremost, yeah, I spoke to the HVAC vendor and they informed me that the reason that they can't clean the ducts is because they're old, which that means that the reason that they need to get paid for is wear and tear, and we don't cover wear and tear. And I was so frustrated immediately. I'm like, I don't want to, don't do this. Don't do this. Like the guy, clearly he's been an adjuster for a long time. I could tell he knows what he's doing and what he's talking about. And I just got him to reiterate. I'm like, so you're telling me that the condition of the ducts that you insured, insurance company, which is these are old, makes it so they cannot be repaired because the loss is covered. It was a wildfire. And now you're calling that condition the cause of loss. And he's like, well, the reason they would have to get replaced is because of wear and tear. I'm like, no, the reason they have to get replaced is because there was a wildfire. The reason that they have to get cleaned, which you're saying has to happen, and that can't be done. I walked him all the way through it. I was just so fresh. I'm like, we both know this is wrong. I understand that this is a new position that more and more insurance companies are taking, that wear and tear is, as a condition, we're trying to call it a cause of loss, but it's inappropriate. And he was just not going to budge. And I was like, okay, but just put it in a denial letter and send it to me. So I guess I can have an attorney review it and we'll go over it. He's like, okay. Oh, also, I talked to the abatement vendor and they said that they cleaned all the contents. I was like, no, they didn't. I talked to them too. There's a Christmas tree there. They can't vacuum the Christmas tree off. They didn't try to clean that, or these children's books, or all these other things. They told me that. So I don't think they would have told you that they tried to clean everything. He's like, well, and I was like, what about all the clothing? They can't, how would they have cleaned the clothing on site at the house? This is one of my favorite parts of this, Rachel. I said, they didn't bring like a washing machine or dry cleaning equipment to the house. And they told me they didn't take anything out of the house. So all the clothing that's there has not been cleaned. He's like, well, I paid Xactimate pricing to the insureds to have the clothing cleaned. And I was like, wait a second. The clothing is contaminated with lead, right? And I was like, what you're saying is you paid for them to be dry cleaned, right? Or like for the insured to take them to the cleaners and get them cleaned? Yeah. Okay. They're contaminated with lead, right? Like we agree they're contaminated with lead. You want the insureds to pack up all their lead contaminated clothing, take it to a public laundromat, and then wash it there? That's what you paid for. And he like agreed, like this is what we paid for. And this is all we're approving. I was like, I'm asking for a licensed vendor that's licensed to handle lead contaminated property to come and assess it and figure out what needs to happen. He's like, yeah, we're not approving for that. He's like, well, the insureds can do whatever they want to, but if I say I approve it, then we're going to have to pay for it. I'm like, you should pay for it. It has to happen. And this is where this one is at. I was in the car. I'm like, please put this in writing in an email to me. And I was about to step into a meeting. But I'm like, so all this comes back to, these are everyday, non-complex insurance claims arguments that a homeowner should be able to get over with a little bit of help, very realistically. And they do oftentimes. Like, we see adjusters say dumb things like this often to homeowners. It's like, oh, it seems like you're confusing this for this. Can I please have coverage? Yes. Okay, fine. You can have coverage. I'm a public adjuster. He knows I know what I'm talking about. He knows I can talk to an attorney about this. It's like, and you still are going to stand by this nonsense. And I'm talking to Aaron after this, and I'm like, at what point in this claim with this everyday type of issue, does this equal bad faith that a lawsuit can be filed against them, this insurance company? And I don't know, this is the crazy part. These people have been treated horribly. Their additional living expenses is a week from being cut off, 1 week from being all the way cut off. So they're going to be paying out of pocket, or they're going to move back into a lead contaminated house.
Cut off because they've exhausted limits, or cut off because they're refusing to pay for it?
Refusing to pay for it. Limits are there. All the limits are, they have plenty of money left in their limits. And the insurance company is like, or the adjuster, well, I'm not saying that they have to move back in. They don't have to, but we're just not going to pay for it right now. I don't have any justification as to why they would need to stay elsewhere, because of course the HVAC isn't covered and the contents assessment isn't justified. And we all know here, I'm going to get over this hump, right? Like, I know what I'm doing. I know the supervisors I can talk to. I know that the chain of command I can push this through. This is a smaller claim for a public adjuster to handle. Most public adjusters that were working on claims like this in California were signing them at 25 to 40% to help people through these issues. These are incredibly frustrating. They take a lot of time to try and get through issues like this. And so in my mind, I'm just like, this is not like this insurance company knows that this is inappropriate, but all the things that they just did and said are wrong. But anyways, at what point, Rachel, I mean, you're a legal expert. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, you're not a legal expert. I'll just put that caveat out there. Rachel is not a legal expert. But you are with homeowners every day, talking with them about their claims, right? You are supporting them through things like this. I'm a public adjuster. Right? I am literally licensed to live through this frustration. It's like, this is my calling. I get to have these annoying conversations with insurance companies. But I have the confidence to know, I think, and I'll let one of you guys talk for a little bit after this because I've been talking for 20 minutes, but I have the confidence to know that the insurance company is 100% wrong, right? I know that.
Right.
You guys know that. A homeowner doesn't actually know that, right? When an adjuster comes back at them confidently and says, hey, replacing the ductwork isn't covered because that's wear and tear, and here's the policy language that says wear and tear is excluded. A homeowner is just like, oh my gosh, I have to pay $10,000 to get my ducts replaced now, or else I have to risk all the lead that is in them that's now going to get blown around my house with my young kids. And at least I know that that's nonsense, right? That they're doing that, and I am prepared to argue it. A homeowner, even when they are told by you at Tugboat, like, hey, here's some things to consider about denials like this. Here's some template letters for how to respond to things like this. Here's some questions you can ask. That doesn't always give them the confidence that they know that they're now in the right. Like, they have to move forward with maybe my insurance company is right, maybe I'm wrong, which is, again, why they still end up seeking out a public adjuster sometimes, because it's exhausting and it's discouraging.
Yeah, well, the adjusters, they're whatever training they're doing for this particular event, they're listening to what's being told that they're supposed to regurgitate, and so they're just saying those things. The adjusters don't even. I don't think they even know. And the insurer for that particular claim that your policies, like it over lead itself, lead and water is like, who even knows if it's covered? And I've read that policy like 1,084 pages. We'll assume that it's covered, but it's not a great assumption. But anyway, so I that being said, I think the adjusters don't even know what's covered either. They've just heard what they're supposed to say from these, quick 20-minute management meetings where, these training modules they take for this event. I don't believe they know. And so they just try to match it up. And it's like they go on a wild goose to try. That's all. They're because it requires work to authority,
Yeah.
If they have to request authority, then maybe. I mean,
yeah.
I've worked with people like that. I've worked with lots of people like that. It's just easier.
He seems like a nice enough guy. Like, I don't think he woke up thinking like, I just want to deny claims today. Right. I think somehow he maybe, I don't know, Aaron, do you think an adjuster like this, that like, he talks like he knows, he has some experience. He doesn't sound like me, my first month of adjusting, making my way up, making everything up as I made my way through it. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that he knows what he's talking about. What do you think? Do you think adjusters like this know that this is wrong? Did we know that it was wrong when we were adjusters?
I can't tell if you're just like being facetious here or what.
I'm not.
But,
no,
no, like he almost certainly knows it's wrong. Simply because, like, regardless of when he got licensed, every 2 years he's got to re-up his licensing and take the same course that tells him, hey, here's the core principles of how insurance policies are governed and work. And that course is gonna, if he forgot, remind him that, how the causal chain works, which is essentially what's being drawn into question here. Like, can we pretend that this thing that caused it isn't the thing that caused the damage because we want to blame it on something else and call it excluded?
Well, look, the crazy thing is, real quick, I'm looking in that policy and it says it's not things that are not covered, right? It's Section 1, uninsured types of loss or damage and excluded cause of loss or damage. Wear and tear, deterioration, or mechanical breakdown. We do not insure loss or damage that is wear and tear, deterioration, or mechanical breakdown unless if caused by fire or lightning. I mean, so even if you're
that's
like,
so
even if
wild
you're
because
trying-
like usually that's not even there, and
I
it's
know.
still not right because that wouldn't have been the cause. That's the condition,
exactly.
right? And it's like if
Right.
you filed a claim because your ducts were old, that's what that's excluding. And
Exactly.
it's like really obvious if you like are reading it honestly. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, he filed a claim because his ducts were contaminated with lead, and then that snowballed a little bit, but that doesn't change what caused the claim.
Yeah. No, it doesn't at all. But
And sorry,
how
the
many
ducts were contaminated with lead because of a wildfire. It's not like, hey, I found some lead. That also would be pollution and not covered, but
Yeah.
because of the wildfire.
Yeah. Where is listed 9 times in this policy? So where did he look for this exclusion? Like,
Yeah. And the
Yeah.
thing is, it doesn't matter. They're all based off the same form, right?
Yeah.
They're all using very similar language. They all had to get approved. And we all know how these things have been litigated and how these things are worded and what the intent and the actual letter of each policy is when read the way that, I mean, it's supposed to be read. Granted, the whole game seems to be how can we make it more and more ambiguous so that we can cover and deny as a just discretionary action.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more there that it seems to be changing. And I don't know, Aaron, like I wasn't being facetious before because part of me legitimately wonders because I took licensing courses and I understood this as a concept, but I think like as an independent adjuster, at least, where I was just like, I just got to do claims, right? Which means like I need to do my 10 to 15 claims a week because I was getting paid per claim. You were an independent adjuster too, right? And these are the guidelines with which I write claims. These are the things I know about them. This is what, this insurance company counts. For you, Aaron, it was hail damage. For me out here, it's like, what do they say about water long term? And it only had to do with like, what did they put in their training material? Like I wasn't thinking back to what are these insurance I don't know what the word I'm trying to principles. What do these principles actually mean when it comes to claim? Which is like it's almost exclusively where we're thinking lately with Tugboat, right? Like what is the core of this dispute? What do you need to try to explain? What are your rights? Like we're and this is me kind of thinking through this obviously in the moment right here. But like we're thinking on a different plane than adjusters are thinking on, right? They're not thinking through what is a homeowner's rights, right? What are they owed via the contract? They're thinking, I have a claim to adjust. This is the guidelines for how I adjust a claim. This falls in or outside those guidelines. And this is how I explain that to someone with this language. And I think it's why so often, even like in that phone call, I'm like are you lying to me? Are you an idiot? And I think it's almost neither, right? It's just like, oh, we're operating on different planes. I'm trying to ensure that this person gets what they're owed, like what they're rightfully owed. You are trying to adjust a claim per a guideline you were given at the beginning of the storm, which we all know for this specific insurance company is new, right? Like this insurance company has not acted like this to this extent before. So certainly There have been some changes at it, no doubt at all. Yeah.
I don't understand too. Like, so, and this is like the policyholders are owed to restore their whatever it is to pre-loss condition. But the adjusters have put themselves in a restoration contractor's like headspace and says, "Oh, that's not necessary." Dude, how do you know? You worked at Dollar General last week.
Rachel, if you could hear the rest of the conversation we had, he said, well, if you can provide me evidence like photos that items were not cleaned, then I'll consider reviewing those. And I was like, what does a photo of something not being cleaned look like? And he's like, well, if it still has particulate on there. I'm like, you mean like microscopic lead dust? Like you want me to find a photo of that? And then he tries to explain that, like, well, the lead dust is found in the smoke particulate. And, so if you can go find that, essentially it's like, wait, so if
I didn't know they were hiring scientists.
Yeah. And it's all nonsense too, right? Even if he was genuinely saying the things he's saying, and he's not, but even if he was, it's like, if I go find dust on books right now, you're going to tell me it's dust, right? Because the house was cleaned weeks ago by the abatement company. Wait, suddenly you're going to trust that this likely has, are you going to have a whole nother round of testing done to show that this stuff that the abatement company knows that they didn't clean wasn't cleaned before? Like, this
if you had another round of testing that you paid for, they'd have another round of testing to try to refute your testing.
Sure would. Aaron, this is a good segue into your mass theory about waste and insurance that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, well, if it supports denying claims,
the world is ready for it yet, but I think time that you let them put your cards on the table.
You want to go there with this?
I think so. I think it's good. Let me put you on the big screen. Tell us a little bit about what.
Well, I mean, it's just observed, right? In the claims that we're dealing with, like the budget for anything that supports minimizing a claim is unlimited on the insurance company's side. Like they will, and what's weird is everything's so siloed, right? So it's not holistically like, oh, what makes it so that we have the least outgo on this claim? Like, oh, if we're gonna outpace the dispute amount with the ALE that we're paying out, maybe we should just pay the dispute. None of that calculation's going on. It's just, we will indefinitely pay for housing if we're the ones, and unless we decide not to. There's always these caveats, right?
But if there's a secondary dispute going on that they don't want to set precedent with.
Yeah, exactly. So like precedent is like the most dangerous thing. And it's part of why when we're talking about like, oh, this insurance company behaved differently in the past than they are now. Well, they will firmly maintain like every claim's adjusted on its own merits, right? And that's the way, but like that leads to so much inefficiency, but it's the inefficiency that supports minimizing claims. So it's okay if they have every adjuster doing making the same decisions over and over and over, when they know that like, all of these houses have lead in this area, but if we approve testing on a case-by-case basis, even though that's inefficient and may even lead to like double testing, late testing, the stuff already got taken out, now it's being tested, now we have to, or taken out, put back in, now we have to test, take it out, put back in again. We've seen these things crop up over and over, and it's okay, and they'll do it repeatedly because in the aggregate it means they're reducing spending. And like the budget for them getting follow-up testing to refute your testing is apparently unlimited. And when I say they, I mean all carriers that we're dealing with. It's really broad. But it's, if you want to get testing because you disagree with their testing, 100% out of pocket, your problem. If they want to get testing because they didn't like the answer that your testing company put up, they can do that as many times as they want all day. And it's this kind of There's an insanity to it. But I mean, you do understand it if you look at like the problems that they're willing to fix and where the incentives are. It's like, well, all of these in the aggregate reduce claim payouts and avoid setting precedents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, going back to your lead scenario, right? If they understand this neighborhood was affected by lead almost entirely based on every testing result comes back positive for lead, we're not going to preemptively test because that's expensive, right? And sets a precedent not just for testing, but what type of vendor we have to use afterwards.
And what kind of abatement you're going to end up doing.
So we're not going to preemptively test. And we know this, like, but if someone asks for testing, maybe we'll only test for soot, char, and ash, right? Some people that like carriers said that we won't test for lead and asbestos, right? And so there's the next bar that someone needs to get over. So someone says, well, I'm going to test for my own lead and asbestos because I'm concerned about it. Fine. Like, you can't stop someone for testing for it. And they submit that. And then the carrier's like, well, we're not going to pay for their testing. We're going to double up. It's not even that we distrust that their testing is accurate, but we don't want to set a precedent that when someone submits a testing invoice to us, that we pay for it. So instead, we're going to do our own testing right now, based on our own choices for reasons that don't matter to you. We're going to do some testing right now. And so now that's like the next barrier someone gets through, and like, okay, that testing comes back positive. What are we going to do about this lead? So each of these are a barrier, and they know that the majority of property owners will stop at one of those barriers. If it's not the first one, it's the second, third, or fourth one.
And they're all expensive. They're not just barriers.
I'm on it. We're doing office hours right now.
Okay. See you.
You out of here?
Yeah. Love you.
Love you. I'll see you in a couple days.
Okay.
The cost being passed on to the policyholder.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Sorry, what were you saying, Aaron?
I said they're not just barriers. They're costs that the policyholder is having to incur.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the hard part, right? It's not just it's so often. I posted about this on LinkedIn this last week, and it was the first post in a long time I didn't get like pushback from carrier advocates,
attorney
guys, and it's not that they didn't see it, just no one had anything to say about it. And actually, I'm just gonna read it because Aaron, I don't know if you saw it yet.
I probably didn't. No,
you were out of town last week. You don't follow
I was not hanging out on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Are we connected on LinkedIn yet? I don't know if you accepted my friend request on there yet. But anyway, so this is what I wrote. One of the more cruel things insurance carriers do during the claims process is threatening to stop ALE, additional living expenses payments, inappropriately and prematurely. Unlike disputes related to the scope or cost of repair, this issue affects the family's immediate well-being and even safety at times. Here's how it often works. The insurance company pays what they decide the repair should cost. The homeowner and or their contractor says that's not enough to fix everything. The insurance company says, tell your contractor to get started anyways, and we'll work out the differences later. The homeowner doesn't want to commit to paying the contractor a bunch of money out of pocket, so they tell the adjuster they need to work out the numbers first. The insurance company says they will not continue paying ALE if the insured keeps stalling, or they say the repair should have taken a specific amount of time, say 6 weeks, and then if the negotiation takes a few weeks, they'll only pay for a few more weeks of housing. Homeowners left to decide if they want to settle for less repairs or less. Homeowners are left to decide if they want to settle for less repairs or less money than it seems is owed, or if they'd rather risk carrying tens of thousands of dollars in ALE expenses. This is not rare. It happens every day on every type of claim that requires ALE to be paid. And I was thinking, and I put in the comments the situation for the claim we've been talking about. I was like, here's another example for one that I'm working on right now. And this was before I got this dumb wear and tear argument thrown at me on it. But that it was this claim that made me start thinking about it, because ALE, Aaron, you made the point a second ago, that a barrier isn't just a frustration, it's a cost. Mm-hmm. And this barrier is a cost. It's an emotional burden.
They're threatening you with homelessness if you don't play ball. It's nuts.
He told me on the phone, if the homeowner wants to move back doesn't want to move back into the house. We're not going to make them. I was like, I know you cannot force someone to live somewhere. Like this dumb straw man response to
Yeah.
but yeah, like threatening them with carrying what is for them. This homeowner asked at the beginning of the insurance process. Rachel, you probably assisted with this because they were a tugboat user. They asked for a 6-month lease because they knew, like everyone else knew, it's going to take a long time for our community and everything to be restored. Insurance company said, nah, your house isn't burnt down. This should only take a few months. You can get a month-by-month lease, which cost them almost $10,000 a month to do for a regular, like 3-bedroom house. So this is a precedent thing, Aaron, like you were talking
Yeah,
about.
they're willing to pay a much, much higher, and it hurts you, not them. They're going to exhaust your limit. They know that there's a ceiling on what they'll pay there.
Yeah. So they are paying almost $10,000 a month when they likely could have spent $5,000 for a midterm rental rather than this 10. And the homeowner is like, I didn't want to spend 97. And now, and what's funny is now at the end of this argument about ALE, or what feels like to everyone like we're getting close to the end of it, the insurance company will hold that high number kind of over your head and be like, we're spending so much money each month in ALE. And you're just like, I didn't want to spend this much. I wanted to sign a 6-month lease. Like these, and to your point, Aaron, it's like these inefficiencies aren't me. I asked at the beginning of this claim, you should consider my kids' things and my furniture a total loss because it's covered in lead. And before that, you should have paid for lead testing. You didn't want to do it. Everything's covered in lead. You should pay to replace these items. You don't want to do it. You try to clean the house. They don't take out the lead items. Now, I want a 6-month lease. You don't want to do it. Like all of these delays and extra costs aren't because the homeowner has just been like, wait, no, I want this. Like it's just, from the beginning, their position has been unchanged. My house has been inundated with lead from this wildfire that burned down my whole community. Can you please put us up for a reasonable amount of time and replace the items that should be replaced? And this aversion to setting precedent is so harmful. Like these people, I am not exaggerating. I talk to them on the phone every week, are emotionally just done. Like can barely talk to me about their claim anymore. Which that maybe that sounds dramatic to someone that hears this.
I don't think it does. Right. I've never been through anything like it personally.
Right.
And it's like so easy to understand how overwhelming it is. And that's coming from a position of like, I actually, like you said earlier, I have the confidence in what's true, what's right, what's wrong in all of this. And even with that, like you mentioned, like they're throwing up straw man arguments. It's like, well, there's logical fallacies. You can't even call them out, right? Like there's no logic anymore. And that alone is exhausting, right? It's it's just insanity. And like, it's exhausting. I don't think anyone would hear what we're talking about right now and go like, that's dramatic to be worn out by that.
Except for Rachel, who will say that? Who will say it's dramatic?
Oh, I mean,
the adjusters.
It shows in the templates that I prepare. Come like on Wednesday, they get a little more short. And on Thursday, they're a little even more pointed. And on Friday, they're just downright spicy. Like they're all different people. They're not to the same people, but I'm so fed up with all of it for all week. Like you guys, every adjuster to me right now is just an idiot. Like I can't get past that. I got to read you this note from somebody, different carrier, but this goes back to that whole the precedence bit. Wall cavity. So he has the policyholder had. I think it was their next door neighbor. Like every house surrounding them burned down, right? And Emily likes my spicy email.
When you've provided enough tugboat support to someone that they can follow your mood as the tugboat claim support.
That's so bad. Oh, but it's my empathy is just ooh. But so this guy had a lot of severe smoke intrusion on the front side of his
Yeah.
home. More than every other room. It was still bad throughout the whole house, but especially in the front side. And there is on a light switch, appears to be it's probably soot, could be some electrical shenanigans that happened after the fire. Don't know. But he asked the adjuster to have wall cavity testing because it looks like soot. It looks like, it just looks like soot. Like it just infiltrated in. So the adjuster said, wall cavity testing is not a typical test completed since cleaning protocols and clearance testing is based on the results of habitable space.
And you don't live in your walls. That's true. Like, we don't cover.
Can't even argue with
mean-
that. That's sound right there. I don't know. I don't live in wall cavity.
So look, my problem with it is not typical. No.
Doesn't matter.
Like every claim on its own merit. If they can say it, so can I. Come
It
on,
is
man.
weird how much they
if-
lean on guidelines and like what's typical, what's normal for this situation, while simultaneously pretending.
Rachel, can you quote that and email it to me? I actually want to do a post about this idea that you're talking about right now. That I think it's an interesting one to throw out there into the world. We adjust every claim on the basis of its own merit or whatever it is versus, well, it's not typical. We don't typically pay for this. We got to come up with Aaron. One of the things that when I called Aaron in frustration talking about this claim was just feeling like there has to be a better way when we see something so egregious. And this one's so egregious because it's such a simple argument that they're just putting their flag in. And but like when things like this that are this egregious that happen, that are so obvious that the insurance company knows what they're doing is wrong. It's like, but we're not sure if it's bad faith because they have genuine dispute because, I don't know, their manager told them this or their policy says wear and tear, and that can be misinterpreted in this way. And they have a vendor like this abatement company that told them, made it seem like they had cleaned this stuff and it was miscommunicated. And it wasn't bad faith. It was a mistake, and a mistake isn't bad faith. It's like there are certainly claims that you guys are both aware of that we were public adjusters on, that we turned to attorneys and we're like, this is like bad faith is so obvious here. We have the email. We have they so clearly lied about this, and this, like, now we can stake our flag in this lie. But these ones where it's like, I know he's lying, right? But he can weasel his way out of this lie in a few different ways because we've seen them do it. So I can't tell the homeowner right now. I could, like, I probably will, like, let's talk to an attorney, see if it is justified. But I know from having 100 of these conversations with homeowners and attorneys that the bar for a good attorney to take on a claim is so high that the likely the response is gonna be like, yeah, why don't you keep trying to push on that and, explain this. And I just want to be like, they already know that. I don't want to have to explain this over and over to them. So anyways, it's one of the things that we feel like we need to solve is like, what's the easier way through this, right? What's the way that a homeowner doesn't need to retain a public adjuster for a simple dispute like this, doesn't have to sign a 30% retainer with an attorney just to overcome this basic issue on an average claim.
And some of the vehicles for that, I think, are these kind of like legal letters and things that we're able to work with attorneys to like help people shy of a lawsuit get some authority behind what they're working on. But yeah, it's insanity, right? And like you were talking about this earlier, Cameron, how like these arguments, the nuance here, like the average homeowner is like so ill-equipped to deal with this. Like, they have like they are trying to navigate their claim. That's everybody, right? Everybody's just trying to get through their claim. And like, especially when we're thinking about it broadly. And it's just like, there's these nuanced legal, can they get bad faith? Can they not get bad faith? Like things that no one should ever even have to think about, right? And they just know they're being mistreated, right? They know that there's like a promise that's not being kept. And then all of this is like the barriers that there are to making anything happen about that. You were talking earlier about statutes of limitations and like whether they toll or not, and having to like how it's
Rachel, you'll like
difficult.
it. Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah,
Should I
go,
tell
yeah,
Rachel that
dive
story
right into it. Yeah,
before we finish up today?
yeah.
So I've just been getting some education on Texas. We don't deal with Texas a lot, right? Most of our support is in California.
I do. I know about
Yeah.
tolling.
But do you know, this comes from a post that Stephen Badger did a few weeks ago, where he was saying one of his carrier clients reached out to him who had just gone through appraisal, and there was an award that was signed by the umpire and both appraisers. I can't remember what the dollar amount was, but I want to say it was significant, in the hundreds of thousands. Could be wrong about that. And the carrier was saying, do we need to pay this award? And the reason they were asking was because the statute of limitations on that claim had run out. And appraisal does not toll the statute of limitations in Texas. I don't think it does in California either. But it doesn't toll the statute in Texas. And it had run out during the appraisal process. And so his answer to the carrier was like, no, because there is no corrective action that the insured can take to sue you for not upholding your end of the contract at that point. They can no longer enforce it through a lawsuit. So if you just decide not to pay this appraisal award, as you don't want to, you can get away with it now.
Oh, that makes sense.
Isn't that horrible? And his point, like, that he was trying to make overall was, well, like, attorneys should know about this. So like policyholder attorneys should know about the statute and the issues there. And if they were to reach out to me while I was overseeing an appraisal for the carriers and ask me to have an agreement that the statute would toll, I would grant that, but they would need to know to ask. And so the whole point was like, we need to, like, policyholder attorneys need to be better educated and more professional. Sure, granted, right? You need to have good attorneys that know what they're doing, that don't let statutes expire while they're overseeing a case. But mine and Aaron's point as we're talking about it is most claims don't have an attorney on them. Don't you want, isn't the point of appraisal so that it doesn't have to go to a lawsuit oftentimes? Isn't a homeowner allowed to invoke appraisal all on their own without a public adjuster, even though it doesn't happen enough? And
so an answer to this is like, stop making policies that are 84 pages long.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it would make it easier. It would make it easier for a homeowner to know what their rights are and what appraisal actually is.
I think deeper, the thing that post exposes most, though, is like there was an award. They had to pay that claim. It is now acknowledged. There was an appraisal. The mechanisms of the policy were respected, but they will only pay if it shows the posture. If no one forces us to pay, I'm not paying anything. Yeah. Regardless of what the commitment was at the outset, we have to be forced. If there's no consequence for not paying, I'm not paying. And that's what's highlighted there. Like, if more than anything.
Consequence for bad faith, I'll commit bad faith.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And what's interesting even there, right? Because you were talking about the appraisal costs in Texas specifically, right? By merely entering into it, they can't get the bad faith anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So, and there's just all of these
by merely paying it at the end of it. Yeah.
But in this case, so like the only reason they would have paid it was to avoid bad faith. And now since they can't get slapped with bad faith for not paying it because the statute's blown, tough luck, buddy. Mm-hmm. And then that person's like not only out the claim payment, out the appraiser costs, they're now also like in the time, like they also have this claim on their record. Their premiums are going up with the next guy. It's like the cascade of consequences for the policyholder who paid you premiums this whole time and trusted you to insure them it's insanity. Like
Yeah.
what a dynamic we have on this like commoditized like product.
And the thing that Badger, I'll have to go back and read that post again. It was from a few weeks ago. But again, what to me it exposed is like, you don't understand the everyday claims. I mean, I wrote about this not that long ago on LinkedIn. Matthew Onson came at me specifically for that part that, you know, attorneys don't often see everyday claims. They don't get to see the average claim. They see the troubled ones, the big ones. And, but there's plenty of trouble on the everyday ones. Anyways, but Badger's perspective in that it's like, it's essentially that he's saying like bad attorneys need to be punished for being bad at their job. And I don't feel bad about that. It's like, again, fine, bad attorneys need to be punished, but you're willing to set a precedent here, even if your thought is like, well, I have really good commercial carriers that'll only do this when I tell them to. I'm not going to do it all the time. Doesn't matter. State Farm gets wind of this in your state that they can just get away with this crap. You think like that it's just not going to get enforced on every single appraisal where the statute runs out when the homeowner doesn't even have an attorney telling them that the statute's about to be blown and they need to file a lawsuit just to maintain it. So it like that's where it made me sick. Like you, Rachel, it's like you get sick to your stomach. You're like, the amount of homeowners that will be harmed by this and you'll never hear about, because they'll simply get a denial letter that no, sorry, we're not going to pay your appraisal award. And then they're going to go to an attorney and be like, they're not paying my appraisal award. And the attorney's going to be like, there's nothing I can do. Like the statute's blown. That's why they're not paying it. Like you can go post on LinkedIn about it. And apparently they won't care because their attorneys brag about it.
And the DOI doesn't really have any teeth to help you with that either.
Yeah, I mean it's in the contract, so like that's where again, like you, Rachel, it's like, oh, like this made me so uncomfortable to know that you're willing to say this.
It's also interesting that like even within that scenario, whether he granted tolling was discretionary. Right? Like it was if your attorney had written me to ask me to toll it, I probably would have signed that. It's just like, wait, what? what is this world?
It's again, yeah, because he's trying to posture and say bad attorneys should be punished and good attorneys. It's this high level, all respect a good attorney on the other side of this that's smart and knows the game that I want to play and plays it to my level. That one I'll give some respect to. Great. No, great. What about, the other 99% of claims that a homeowner is just managing on their own? Last thing is, Emily asked a little bit ago, she was asking, and I want to make sure we always address Emily's questions, or she says, for the ash and the wall cavity one, but you wouldn't have wildfire ash in your wall cavities otherwise, right? So they should be on the hook for returning it to pre-loss condition. Yeah, Emily, you're 100% right. That's why we laughed about it, is it's just silliness for them to try and separate the inside of your wall cavities from your living space. There is no separation. Like I guess we probably should have explained before. But again, these things are said by adjusters with such confidence that it just it sounds like maybe it was in the policy, but there's no separation between your wall cavities and your living spaces as far as what's covered in your insurance policy. Pre-loss condition is generally pre-loss condition. So when his point is we don't really care about wall cavities, it's living spaces that we deal with here. So I'm sorry. It was laughable to us because it's just making stuff up.
But they're not going to search for it, though. If you get wall cavity testing and it results, they'll clean the one wall.
Oh, we learned this one.
Maybe only just that one between the two.
One cavity.
One
Yeah.
wall cavity.
I mean, I don't know. They're not going to look for it though.
Yeah, they will not. That's
And
true.
in fact, I bet if you get wall cavity testing, even they wouldn't do wall cavity testing.
They didn't. Yeah, we've had this. Like they didn't. They agreed to clean 2 walls where the cavities were tested, or to open those walls up. That's it. So, anyways, we are at our hour. That went by fast. I want to say this real fast. This has been a little bit of an emotional, frustrating topics for us. Like if you're watching this, if you're one of the few people that's on here, you're watching this later. Certain things that we come up with, and now we're at like the 7-month mark after these wildfires in California, is like, it's exhausting and it's frustrating. And as Rachel says, like we're seeing that with our users that use Tugboat. We're seeing it with clients of Waypoint Adjusting. And wow, the world has now moved on from the California wildfires. People are now being asked to move back into homes that are contaminated. They're having to live through this nightmare still and in new ways every single day, and it's exhausting. And so I want to reiterate, like we are here to help make sure claims go smoothly as much as we can, right? Our goal is not to help someone manage a bunch of disputes with their insurance company. The goal for us at Tugboat is to help someone have a smooth insurance claim, right? What's the most direct path to accurate coverage? What's the documentation that you need for it? How can you respectfully request this to your adjuster? Don't be rude. Don't even if you're frustrated, be respectful. Treat this person with humanity. Like all these things, these are the types of advice that we're giving people to try and manage an insurance dispute. So we're like, the frustration that you're hearing from us is like, man, we see people do, and we help them accomplish really meaningful, kind, respectful requests and reasonable ones to their insurance companies. And to see them be responded to in the ways that they are still is really difficult. So that's the frustration that you're seeing. But most Tugboat users' claims, like I said, don't need an attorney, don't need a public adjuster. They get through these things. But you're hearing some of the challenging ones. I'm going to tease this. It looks like in September sometime, Rachel will be the decider of this. We're going to do an on-site Tugboat office hours is the goal. There'll be after hours where we want to get Tugboat users from the areas in Altadena and maybe the Palisades together to maybe tell some of their stories, to connect with some experts in person. And just to kind of gather and check in on each other. How are things going this long after the wildfires, for us to meet you and you to meet us as well. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. Aaron and Rachel will be out here for it, and it'll be great. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you all next week.